Hey guys, welcome back to The Divine Witch, and I am your host, The Divine Witch. Today we're going to deep dive into Jeffree Star. We're going to be talking about shadow work, and we're also going to be talking about mental health. So stay tuned, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for all those notifications. Let's go ahead and dive in. Hey guys, and welcome back to The Divine Witch. So I'm your host, The Divine Witch, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk. Now, you're probably wondering, what does Jeffree Star, mental health, and shadow work have in common? Yesterday, I had stumbled upon Jeffree Star's video. I've watched him for a while. I don't agree with everything that he's done in the past, but I do believe that people have the ability to grow and transform, and I feel like that's what's kind of going on with him right now. And I feel like this would be the perfect opportunity since he did make that video, which thank you for making that video because it does bring up the topic of mental health and, how to work on oneself. And I kind of want to talk about the things that, from a pagan's point of view, some of the stuff that we do to kind of help us with our own mental health, being able to reflect within, and maybe it might help somebody else out there who might be going through something similar like Jeffree Star was going through, even if you're not on the same tax bracket, so to speak. So one of the things that we've done here on this channel for, I think it was 2019, when we actually started the Pagan support group, which is a branch off the Divine Witch group. And the reason that we started that is because we seen a need for people to be able to come to a safe space where they could talk about the things that they were going through without being, berated, but just have support. You know what I mean? It's like a support group with a pagan belief system behind it. And over the last year or two, we've got growth on it. We've made friendships along the way. And it's something that, when it comes to mental health is important to me because I have family and they have dealt with mental health issues. I personally have dealt with things like anxiety, depression, and there's a lot of things in our community even that don't even get addressed, or certain events and stuff that's not catering to a certain group, that could give them a safe space, which the whole concept of safe spaces is a place where people can go and they can feel safe. They don't feel like they're being threatened. They can be open, they can be honest, they can be raw. And that's kind of why we started the Pagan support group. Now, as I was watching his video, like I said, I don't agree with everything that he's done. If we talk about people evolving or transforming or, becoming a better version of themselves, that's got to start from a place of chaos. And that's pretty much where Jeffree Star has started, in a place of chaos. And slowly over time, you can start to see different fluctuations, and especially if you're really in tune. And this goes with the fluctuations of, people in general. Even the worst person can have a revelation and transform and be something better. And that's my personal belief with that, if someone really wants to change and they look inside and they make the right choices, that anybody can evolve and change from who they were to who they are now. And I think this is part of the discussion that, a lot of people ain't talking about, at least from a spiritual aspect, when it comes to this whole new video with Jeffree Star. And I kind of wanted to bring it up just for the reason being that I feel like it's something that everybody could relate to. When we had the pandemic, we had a lot of people who didn't know what to do. People were stressing out, couldn't get to loved ones, and then for some reason we were hoarding toilet paper. And then, certain companies were shutting down, which, has left people without jobs, losing their home. And even as we start to open back up, some of those people are being lost and forgotten, and it's getting to a point to where their mental health is being extremely affected. And, even though right now, here we are, what is it, June? We're here in June 2021, and coronavirus is still here. People are still dealing with it. We do got the vaccine, and it's great, and things are starting to open up, but there was a lot of turmoil and stress and anxiety from 2020. It was just one thing after another. And, it's kind of like life, except instead of it being an individual experience, it was a mass experience. This was the first time in the, since I've been alive, that the world has been affected by something to where it shut everything down. And we try to do our best here on this channel to kind of like have conversations with people. I know as organization leader or group leader, some of the people that we worked with, like Interfaith and other groups, it was a hard transition period because, anything like this, it's normally more hands-on where you're interacting with other people. And that's kind of another aspect that 2020 kind of killed in a way is, you were either by yourself or you were with a small group, and that's just where you were. And, we are people. We need to be around other people to have that energy soak in and kind of, have that moment. But when you're alone, it opens yourself up to a lot of reflection. And when you start reflecting, you don't only reflect on the things that are good, you reflect on the things that are bad. And then when it's something that's life-threatening, like if with COVID, you start thinking of your mortality, you start thinking of death. Like, where are you going? Where have you been? Like, it's mind-numbing, and it's honestly a dark place to be in. And I think that's one thing, with this video that we could all agree on of like, it hit us all in different ways, but it was something as a collective we experienced. But when it comes to mental health, not everything happens like that. It doesn't happen to the whole world. But sometimes it feels like your whole world is being crashed down slowly by piece. And I feel like, 2020 was kind of like a metaphor for mental health, but on like a huger scale. And, it was so big of a topic that they were actually talking about it more on the news and everything else instead of it being a trend, or if someone had passed away that was a celebrity and talking about mental health and how it was. I mean, you guys remember when Robin Williams and all that stuff went down, and it's just like you really never know where someone's at mentally. Even though they may seem one way, it comes off another, and then you just spiral. Because at some point, you're just like, fuck it, what's the point? And this is kind of where, I'm trying to make it to where it's not like, oh, it's a celebrity to it's an individual experience. Because we all have our different things that we go through. Whether it's family, jobs, loved ones, cheating spouses, whatever it may be. Or, there's just so much that can happen. Life is like a roll of the dice. You never know what's going to come next. You don't know if you're going to have a winning number or a losing number. And so when we're talking about mental health and we're talking about recovery, especially, after something like 2020, that's when shadow work comes to mind, where you're actually deep diving into yourself, into the trauma, and its ability to actually help you kind of get through some things. Now, people always ask, what is shadow work? What exactly does shadow work do? Shadow work is one of those things that's not, it can be taught, but it's one of those things where like, it's like an experience. It's allowing yourself to open up. It's allowing those memories that you don't want to remember and allowing them to flood to the front. You know what I mean? Instead of being shoved in a box somewhere. It's kind of like the shadow self, the part of ourself that we do not like. If we're mean to people, or if we have revenge tendencies, or if someone hurt us and we can't let it go and we're carrying that trauma into other relationships and so forth. Or, some people with drug use, what are you numbing? What is it about that? Why is it so hard to get over that? And it's addressing these things, and a lot of people will either do it by themselves, or you have a percentage that will do it with the help of an actual psychologist. Now, in his video, he actually talked about how he had a psychologist. I don't know if this is something that they're actually worked on. I can't really say, but it is something that I feel is beneficial to people, and not a whole lot of people know about it. Like, really reflecting. And you're probably asking yourself, well, how could I get started with something? The easiest way to get started is to grab a paper and pen. Write down the things that you know that automatically trigger you. What puts you into that fight or fight or flight kind of mentality. And then as you go, you'll notice, okay, you're acknowledging these, but as you're acknowledging them, you're going to start remembering things that you haven't remembered in years. And then that's another thing that gets added to the list, and you take that time to either, some people will do cry therapy, which is where you just let yourself cry for the whole day. And, normally some people will have a cry buddy. And I know for some, this is going to seem like, well, that just seems like you're just crying. No, it's a form of therapy. It's taking the repressed emotion that you had in that moment and pushing it forward so you can actually feel it. It's kind of like when someone passes, you know what I mean? You have that emotion, but you never really allowed yourself, so you kept on keeping busy just to kind of push it back. Kind of another thing that he mentioned in his video was that pushing that back, as long as I stay busy, I don't have to think about it. But, then something like 2020 happens, and then that's all you can do is think about it, because you got all this free time. You can't go nowhere, you can't do nothing, you can't see nobody, and even if you do see somebody, it ain't going to be that long, because eventually they're going to go back to wherever they're going, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where, like, it's something that we've gotten used to as a society. When we can't handle something, we either run from it or we just keep busy to where we don't have to think about it. This is kind of where you get the people who say, I can't be alone. I personally can't be alone. I can't stand to be alone by myself. And that's because they're not able to acknowledge the things in front of them and be able to handle it properly. You know what I mean? And when I say properly, it's not like, oh, you have to do it this way, step, step, step. It's being able to at least acknowledge it and to feel in that moment. Because we all have ways that we deal with trauma, that we deal with things that even our own mind, or maybe someone said to you. Like, for instance, I've been called fat all my life. That's not something that I hide. I am fat. You know what I mean? I got a little bit more chunk in the trunk, Like, I don't hide it, and I'm not afraid of it, and I'm not sad about it. It's who I am. It's who I became as a person. Now, can I lose weight? Yeah. But the issue that I personally have versus someone else who puts it in my mind, like, you can't wear this because it'll show your stomach, or you can't do this. Like, that's trauma someone else put inside your mind. So when you're having those thoughts of like, oh, I can't wear that because I'm fat, or I wouldn't look good in that because I'm fat, that's not you saying you wouldn't look good because you're fat. That's from someone down the road somewhere back in your past who said this to you, and now it's living in your mind rent free. And it's hard to get past, especially if you grew up in a time like I did where it was in the 90s, where, like, if you weren't thin and if you didn't have this, like, certain daytimes they wouldn't even let fat people on screen, or night times, because it wasn't good publicity. Like, we look at the entertainment industry, and the entertainment industry, all it is trends of regurgitating the same things over and over and over again, which kind of feeds into our psyche. And it's the same thing like when you're dealing with mental health. You get all these other perceptions from TV, movies, friends, family, co-workers, just random Joes and Janes on the street. And you don't think about it as much as, oh, well, this is trauma for me. You just think of it as, well, someone's an asshole, someone's being a bitch, blah, 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 blah. But realistically, it's trauma that's being put onto you. Now, there's a difference between having trauma and using trauma as a crutch. Many people have said that when it comes to trauma, oh, you're a snowflake, or you're just not tough enough, or all this. But realistically, we're all fucking people. And to acknowledge your emotions and how it makes you feel is not a bad thing. It makes you the ability to know, hey, I don't have to put on armor in front of everybody. Because you know what? Yeah, some people are going to come at you. Some people are not going to like you. Some people won't see the change that you're doing if you are trying to, have a better life in yourself. And that's kind of what I want to talk about with the whole Jeffree Star. If you look at his past alone, he looks like a horrible person, you know what I mean? But if you watch the journey up until this point, and especially this point, it's the evolution of acknowledgement, knowing I did wrong, trying to make amends for it the best you could, and trying to move forward. Now, do I say that, he gets the free pass right now because he screamed mental health? No, because some people do use mental health as a way to grab people and be like, oh, poor me. No, I believe actions speak louder than words, and we'll see what his actions are. See what they show themselves as, you know what I mean? But when it comes to a betterment of yourself, when you're doing it, you're going to have mess ups. You're going to have things that happen, and you're like, why did I let myself do this? And you're just like mind blown, right? And then you start questioning yourself, and it's like another spiral down. But as I always say on this channel, life or mental health or whatever it is you're going towards in life, it's never about the destination. Everybody wants to get to that destination point like it's going to be like, woo! But then what do you do after that? Live a happy life? Like you think it just happens like that? No. When it comes to shadow work, when it comes to self-work, when it comes to self-care, it is a long journey, and the only time that you get that destination spot is the day you go in the grave and say your final piece. And that's the truth of it. That's your destination, the end of this life. Because you're always going to have to continuously work, and social norms are always going to continuously change, and it's going to be an evolution. So as the world evolves, you evolve, and then there's some stuff that you do personally that maybe the world isn't caught up to yet. And that's how activism starts. You see something that doesn't feel right to you, you speak out about it, and some people are like, whatever. But 20 years down the road, guess what happens? People are fighting for it. People are like, yeah, people need equality, stuff like this. And it's kind of like what I'm trying to say is, if we always focus on the bad that people have done in the past, we can never see their growth and what they're trying to do for now. Now, granted, there are some people in this world where they will scream, oh, I'm changed, I've done growth, but look, they never do it. That's why I say follow the actions, not the statements. Now, if you're saying, hey, I want to do this, and you're reaching out to friends, you're reaching out to loved ones, or even to your religion, whatever religion that may be, that is great. You have someone to work with you, to call you out, to be like, hey, that's not going good. You need to pull it back. Like, you need somebody who to be honest on your team, and you can be honest with them without, worrying about, oh, are they going to get mad or stuff like that. Like, you're asking for a partnership of like, hey, help me, I help you kind of thing. And I feel like that's another thing that doesn't happen a whole lot in shadow work is group shadow work, where you have a group, maybe 3 or 4 people. You're working, each of you pick a trauma that you want to acknowledge and just share that. And, have a group hug or a hold or just people around to kind of give you aftercare. Because when you start to have these experiences come up, it's not only an emotional, it's a physical response. So, having people to help uplift you, to bring you up from that. It's almost like when I do tarot, whenever we see the Tower card pop up. And that Tower card is destruction, like breaking it down all the way. But with destruction, the sun's got to come out. You got to rebuild yourself. You can't just stay down here at ground zero. If you do, you're never going to make it to where you could be or where you need to be. And, that's kind of the thing. When we have North Node versus South Node, North Node, what is our true calling? What are we doing in life versus what we want to do, which is our South Node. And when we start thinking of that in that sense of life, like, is this for my higher self or is this for my South self? You know what I mean? To where, is this going to better not only me, but those around me, or is it only for me? And you have to categorize. And sometimes it's only going to be for you. Doesn't mean it's bad. No. Doesn't mean it's good. It depends what you're doing, you know what I mean? So when you're going through a journey and you're dealing with mental health, or you're dealing with someone who's saying, hey, I'm going to change, and I need help, and this is where I'm going, and this is what I'm doing, and this is what I've done so far, as long as you're seeing those steps, you can most likely let's say 80% of the time, maybe even 70% of the time, come back from failed either friendships, relationships, family, whatever it is, and bring it to a close. Now, will that happen with every situation? No, because sometimes the trauma is just so deep, you can't ever see that person in a good light. And it's just something you have to either live with or learn to distance yourself enough to where, I don't wish ill upon them, but this is what I need to do for myself. So hopefully this video is helping you guys. Remember, if you ever need any help, and you feel like you're breaking down, my email's always down below. You guys can reach out to our pagan support group, or if you just want some advice, feel free to email me. I'm always here. I try to answer my emails as quickly as I can. Some days it's hectic and I'm getting calls and emails and everything else, but I just want to make it known that this is a safe place. Or at least I try to make it a safe place within the platform we're in, on all of our platforms, really, to where we can be open, we can be honest, we can ask each other for tips and tricks, and kind of, bring, the spiritual aspect along with the mental and the physical aspect. And, since I've used Jeffree Star as this example, I hope you have the best journey. Hopefully you can figure out what's going on with you and be able to grow and continue growing. It's not easy, especially when you're demonized from the past due to past actions and you're just trying to change. So be about what you speak of, okay? Don't do it for anybody else, do it for yourself, and show that within your actions. If you do that, you'll be fine. And I wish you the best on your journey. To everyone else, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. And always remember, no two witches, witch alike.